Let's do this.
And
rock and roll. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Michael Meier Show for Real Estate Rockstars. We have an awesome show for you today. This is going to be a radically different show from what you might be used to, because today on our show, we have a yogi master. We have a yogi entrepreneur. We have a woman who has who has built and sold 2 businesses, 6 yoga studios. And not only that, she enjoys life. She enjoys life. She's passionate. She's also a past client of mine. So I love this girl. I love this woman here. And she is here. So without further ado, I'm going to make a quick introduction. Kim, are you there?
I'm here. Hello, everyone.
Manfredi, how you doing?
Great.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show. It is a pleasure to have you. It's a pleasure to see your smile and the energy that you exude even through the internet airwaves. So thanks for to offering to come on the show. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate the invitation. I really do.
Oh, my pleasure. So we're going to jump in a second. I also would like to introduce Jacqueline. Jacqueline, you there?
Hi, Michael. I'm here.
Jacqueline,
ready? Go ahead.
I'll give a quick intro. Jacqueline Gerard, she is here with us at Meier, and she does so many great, amazing things here, marketing manager, team leader, and she is also hosting the show with me here. She is here to answer your questions. So anybody that has questions, comment below, because we will be answering them, and she has her eye on that. So, hey, Jacqueline, thank you.
Yes, everybody, please engage, comment. We're going to be answering everything live on Facebook.
Woohoo! Okay, cool. So jumping back to Kim. So Kim, the reason I'm so happy that you're on the show is that you made a comment to me a few months ago. You were, getting some of my emails, watching some of the educational content that I put online, and you paid me a compliment that I remember to this day, and I appreciate it. And you said that you loved how I was educating other real estate agents and building my business in that way. And you said it was very similar to how you built your business. And you had a thriving business. So if you could tell us a little bit about you, your past, what the heck is a yogi entrepreneur? That would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I am an entrepreneur. Most recently, my husband and I grew and ultimately sold 7 successful studios in Baltimore. And there were many factors that contributed to our success, including timing and luck. But the value that we placed on training teachers and cultivating community through training these teachers cannot be underestimated. I mean, Chris and I had no idea that this aspect of our business would bring in not only revenue, more importantly, that it created a culture which allowed our brand to evolve from Midtown Yoga to Charm City Yoga. 7 studios, 167 teachers, thousands of student visits every single day. And I did, during the course of my career, about 53 teacher trainings with 33 students each. So, we had brainstorming sessions. We thought about logo, we thought about design, but it wasn't until we started to train the teachers and create a culture that the conversation amongst our community was elevated. The students were more educated because a variety of teachers were offering a variety of viewpoints, all contributing to one underlying philosophy, that yoga can transform your life, basically, and a consistent practice helps you to do that.
Yeah, so it's really interesting to me because from a complete outsider, I think of a yoga studio, and pardon my ignorance in this, but I think of it like if I was going to any type of studio, an exercise studio, a gym class, something like that. And I think that they kind of just hire people, and the people kind of do their thing and leave. And I don't always think that there's such a strong educational component between the school and the teacher. It's like they just kind of hire people and they come and go. Is that generally how it is, and yours was very different than that?
Well, I think that what we did was fairly unique, and it's one of the reasons why we were so successful. Um, and part of that is just a reflection of my continued commitment to learning yoga as an art. For me, it never was an exercise regime, and that I have to thank my teachers for that. But from the beginning, I was so insistent on offering more than exercise. As the students became more advanced, they became interested in the subject matter, and I was able to, thank goodness, provide them with that subject matter. And then once you become an expert in a field, right, the first thing you want to do is start to teach. And so it was really a natural progression for the advanced students to become teachers. And there wasn't a way for them to really do that. And that's the reason that a lot of yoga studios will fail, is because where do they get their teacher? Or the owner of the studio has to do all of the teaching. And if that were the case, you can't get out of your business and craft it. You're stuck in the day to day. And I'm still teaching, but I'm able to, in a sense, broaden our offerings without working harder.
Yeah, that's a cool way of putting it. I liked how you said that you can't, unless you in some way leverage and in some way grow, you can't get out of your business in order to work on your craft. It's interesting. I think about, I'm obviously in the real estate business, and before I was the broker owner of my firm, I was a real estate agent, and I would try to do everything on my own. And I'd be making the cold calls, and I'd be sending out the flyers, and I'd be doing all that stuff. And it was very overwhelming. And I did well. It was, I did make money, but not until I got to a point where I started leveraging other people and saying, hey, how about you handle the showings and I'll handle managing the seller relationships? How about you handle the marketing and I'll handle X, Y, and Z? That I was able to get a little bit more breathing room. And it's at that point that my business grew so much. Exactly what you're saying. It's so similar in terms of the leverage there.
Yeah, and I used to think of it in terms of making myself obsolete, so everything that I did, I wanted to replace myself so that I could do the next thing. And although in the end, in the yoga, I didn't become obsolete, right? I became the teacher's teacher, which ended up being really rewarding. I couldn't be more thankful for the way it turned out. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So did you start off with this idea in mind of training your students to become teachers? Or is that something that evolved over time?
Yeah, and it's amazing. It's amazing how opportunity is there for each of us, and our job, I guess, as entrepreneurs is to say yes. So what happened for me was I opened this little studio as a side job. I had my other business. My husband had a career, and the gym I taught at put a lockbox on the thermostat so it was cold. So I said, I'm just going to teach my own class in my own space, twice a week. And that's how I started. But the classes were so packed, I realized, wow, this is amazing. And it was so consistent, the student body that was coming. I realized, wow, I need to go to India and study. So I needed a sub because I couldn't just shut it down at that point. And my very first teacher training was for a very practical purpose, was to have somebody take my place for a month while I was studying in India. And after that, it just took off. In fact, when I was looking to train that woman, I went around town and I asked other people, would you run a teacher training at the studio? Would you, and everybody was like, oh, no. And in the end, it was me who had to say yes, even though I was a little worried about calling myself an expert, so young. I was, still in my early 30s. I was probably maybe your age. I don't know. and in the yoga world, you have to be careful about calling yourself an expert. But I needed to do this for our community. And so I said yes. And we ran our entire business from that place where the opportunity shows up and we say yes, and we figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So a lot of people that are watching this now, or they're gonna, the thousands of people that are gonna be watching this over time, a lot of them are real estate agents that are overwhelmed, to be honest. They're overwhelmed. They're trying to do everything because nobody's told them that they shouldn't be trying to do everything. One piece of advice that you just shared with them right there is to try to make them, that they should try to make themselves obsolete. Try to get people to try to help them with, doing different things. And in your case, that was trying to get a teacher to replace you. Was there anything through the process that you learned, difficulties that you had? Were you ever nervous that you were going to teach someone else maybe how to be a teacher and then they'd open up a competing studio? I'd imagine maybe that's a fear. Well, I'd love to hear what you learned along this journey.
Yeah, well, one thing that's, I think, important, when you begin training people to do anything, one thing that I've learned is that in the yoga, for instance, I didn't teach a specific methodology. I taught the underlying science of yoga as I learned it, but my greatest offering to these teachers was to help them establish their preeminence, right? And that preeminence is found through the aspect of yoga that you're most passionate about. So in real estate, for example, what you're going to be doing as you're training people is you're creating a culture by allowing someone else to really shine. And what's going to make them shine is a little bit different than what makes you shine. So in yoga terms, somebody might be really juiced about anatomy. Someone else, it might be sequencing. Someone else, it might be philosophy. But that's irrelevant, right? Because when we start to create these specializations, or what I call preeminence, all of a sudden we have a variety of offerings to create an exceptional experience for our student. The understanding about the idea of competition, that's something you have to work out, because if I was attached to being the star teacher at our studio, it would have been a terrifying road. But there was nothing that made me happier than seeing a teacher garner a following. I mean, I had to keep my ego in check, right? It's hard when somebody's like, oh, Camille's my favorite teacher. I'm like, well, I taught her, but, you let that go after, the first couple of times, because you see, right, that in a way you've helped someone create a career and a life that's just marvelous. So but that being said, what we started to do right away was open studios in order to employ the best of the teachers that came out of the training. And if it wasn't my intention to do that, to provide opportunity to these magnificent teachers, then yes, they may have ended up being competition. But it didn't work out that way for us, because with yoga, I mean, it's a very low margin. So that kind of expansion, I think, was the only way we saw to be able to continue to, one, create livelihoods for the teachers. That was the other thing that was so rewarding, right? We're creating livelihoods. And by being successful in our business, we're keeping the front doors open. And by keeping the front doors open, there's yoga for the students, and there's livelihoods for teachers, and then managers, and then yoga advisors. And it just became, Baltimore now is the 6th, according to Forbes magazine, the 6th most likely city in the entirety of the US where people are going to be doing yoga. And, wow. Chris and I, we feel somewhat responsible for that. We've contributed to that, and it's a good feeling in the end.
For sure. You majorly contributed. You set that trend. Wow.
Yeah.
We have Kim, we have some questions coming in that seem pretty similar. So I just want to see if maybe you can offer some insight. So
Sure.
a lot of the agents that are watching are independent. So in essence, they have their own small business. I know here at Meier, we take on agents and encourage them to build their own brands. You sound like you taught your teachers within a certain philosophy that you, I guess, would consider your brand. How do you ensure that when you're imparting knowledge on your team or people who work with you, that they're maintaining your vision, but still, you know what I mean, like expanding, having their own brand? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
And in fact, a lot of the, our first, I don't know how many years, the teachers were independent contractors. So in a sense, they were running their own business.
Right.
For me, I was very clear on what yoga meant to me. And I was very persistent in the practice of seeing where someone else was very gifted and encouraging that. So we did end up having an identity, but that identity evolved as the teachers added to that vocabulary. I thought of it as an art, a living art. And I think real estate, in a way, and how you work with customers to create an exceptional experience, that's an artful approach. So yeah, you may have processes. We had a sequence, and we had strong education on the history of yoga, and we read the text. But all of that, it often as a palette, a painter's palette. And in the end, if those yoga teachers wanted to make a black and white painting, that would be fantastic. But they weren't going to make a black and white painting because they didn't know how to mix red and blue together to make violet. So giving them the tools is going to educate them with what, with the information that you want them to have. How they use that information, you have to give them a little bit of leash, and you have to notice what they do well and incorporate that into your expression of how you do things. And then it becomes community.
Yeah, that really resonates with me because I interview agents all the time. We're a fast-growing brokerage, and they're all independents that work for us. So exactly the same way with your teachers, right? And our whole philosophy in our company is that we believe heavily in the fact that our agents are building their business, under the umbrella of Meier, but we're looking for them to be rock stars. We're looking for them to set a stage for themselves. We want them to grow as big as possible. And we want them to be in an environment where they're surrounded by other people who feel the same way. So everybody helps one another because everyone wants to succeed. And we're very coaching heavy. And so the interesting thing is exactly what you're saying is what's going on in our company at this very moment. An agent will come in and they're really good at X. And so I'll tell them, listen, you're good at that. That's what you should be focusing on. What's your unique proposition? How are you doing things? Doesn't matter how I do things. It matters how you do things, as long as you also believe in education, in abundance, in growth, in service. Like those are, major things that you need to believe in here. If you don't care about your clients and you just care about the dollar, that this isn't the right place for you. But a lot of people care about people. They just service them in a different way. So it's a very similar thing. What I'd like to maybe dissect a little bit is a majority of the people that are watching this show are real estate agents that work either within Meier or other brokerages around the country, maybe internationally even. And so when they're building their business, a lot of what they struggle with is working with other people that are already maybe even within their company. And a lot of them are scared to sometimes share a deal with someone else, or maybe they're scared to partner with someone else because they think they can just do it alone, and why can't I just do it on my own? And I'd love you to give maybe some advice to an agent they've been in the business for a year or two, they're making some decent money, they're doing okay, but they want to grow huge. And what is some advice that you can give to them in terms of just taking advantage of the resources that are already present that they just might not realize are just sitting there?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing because being a yoga teacher, you might expect me to say something like everything's abundance and it'll be fine. I don't really believe in that at all. I believe that they have to work hard. And in working hard, we also want to utilize the modern method of community, which is social networking. And social networking means that my audience and your audience together is going to be greater than my audience alone. So what you need to do, I mean, in addition to helping someone along, you need to reach up to the person who's doing better than you and get them to partner with you so that you can begin to stretch yourself by reaching for something that's greater than you are. In the yoga teaching world, right? If a teacher reaches out and partners with another teacher to offer a workshop or to offer a special event, then in the end they end up far more than the ones that want to do it all themselves. And the same held true with the teacher training. Like when I started to bring teachers in to help me with the teacher training, I had that feeling, right? And in the end, it buoyed me up just that much more as an expert who was now training teachers to teach in the teacher training, and ultimately that's how we were able to sell our business, because we had a business that could run without me. So if you want to blow up, you have to keep taking the risk of working with other people and helping them to succeed, not at your own expense, but with the understanding that their success is only going to lift you a little bit higher. Now, one safety we always had was that if someone did decide to leave, there was always another training with new, young, eager teachers ready to fill their place. In fact, waiting for them to leave, right? So that they could have an opportunity. And that safety allowed me to let teachers get as big as they wanted. And then if they wanted to go and be competition, it was okay. We were that much stronger. And as an organization, the clients stayed with us much of the time. We would lose some, but much of the time it was the experience of walking in the door and being welcomed and being recognized and being connected with that was as important as who was in the front of the room, as long as who was in the front of the room was living, right, yoga as art.
Kim, I would guess by your the value you place on educating your team that you're constantly seeking new ways to educate yourself so then you have more value to share with your team. Do you get inspiration from your team, or are you always trying to stay ahead of what's next in your industry when deciding where to seek further education to then share with those on your team?
Yeah, well, both. I certainly attend classes that my teachers that the teachers that I've trained are offering. And I find a lot of satisfaction in those classes. And I notice what they're doing well, and that does rub off on me and my teaching. That being said, I take at least 7 or so weeks each year to go to India and study. And I take that time away from the business as a teacher, but I come back with so much. And that's why I can feel so good about continuing to train people for so long. In and of itself, the training is rewarding because I don't come back to the training each year with a specific methodology that I'm running through for the 54th time, right? It's just not like that. It's what I experienced, and how I can articulate that to help students, right, have an exceptional experience when they come into practice.
So I'm going to take a quick break for a second because I want to share something that's just cool. This is a side break. So Brandy is a new agent. She came to interview at my company the other day, right? And this is called the Michael Meier Show for Real Estate Rockstars, right? And I just think this is cool. So sorry for the aside, but you see this energy drink here? I don't know if you guys can see it. There's an energy drink that says Rockstar Energy Drink. For anyone that's wondering, like, what am I drinking here? She comes in for an interview and she puts this on my desk and she says, I think you would like it. And now I'm sitting here drinking it, and this thing is so energetic that between the energy, Kim, that I'm getting from you and the drink, I just can't even contain it. But I just want to say thank you, Brandy. This is awesome.
And that's a beautiful marketing effort she did, right? You will never forget her, will you?
I will never. I hired her on the spot.
She was definitely a candidate that stood out for sure. That definitely was going the extra mile.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You know, Kim, you were saying that you one of the ways that you protected yourself in some way from your students that became teachers from becoming competition almost every time was by giving them the opportunity to grow, and you would open up new locations for those teachers that they could grow into. A lot of times people will ask me in my company, like, what are your ambitions? Like, what do you want to be doing with this company, right? And I always say, well, I have national ambitions. And they're like, well, why do you have national ambitions? And I'm like, well, I hire really good people, and as they grow, I'm going to need an opportunity for them to do something. Maybe they want to open up an office. Maybe they want to have a region. Maybe there's something that they want to do. And you saying that you articulated kind of what I was thinking, but I was never been able to articulate. So thank you for that.
Oh, and it'll be so rewarding for you. I mean, we didn't go national. We did get to a place when we had 7 studios. Thank God YogaWorks came along to purchase us, because for Chris and I, the thought of going to number 8 was actually our limit, because we would have had to install a level of management that neither one of us was interested in kind of engaging in. So we did hit our edge, and we were very lucky to have someone who wanted to purchase us. It was a cold call, actually, and we just said, as is our MO, we just said yes, please, and it was a dream. Yeah.
Cool. For real estate agents that are, first of all, for real estate agents that are maybe interested in bringing yoga into their lives, maybe bringing some balance into their lives, you know, is there a certain type of yoga that you would recommend for somebody that's never done yoga before? Because real estate agents lead stressful lives. It is a extremely difficult business. It's very rewarding, but it's extremely difficult. You're on call 24/7, and people expect a lot of you, and people are dealing with the largest investment of their lives. They're relying on you to give them guidance. It's stressful, and reducing that stress in some way through yoga could be a really good advice for agents. What would you recommend for them, and any advice on that regard?
Yeah, I think I would recommend, I mean, there's so many different personalities, so many different body types, so many different ages, so many different life experiences that you have to kind of shop around. Again, you know, in our training, we study all of the different styles of yoga, everything from Bikram to Ashtanga, right? We look at these lineages and we look at what they do well. So over the years, I've come to the conclusion that no one style of yoga has the answer for everyone. That you really have to find the practice and the teachers that speak to you, that make you feel good when you go in, and that you feel even better when you come out. If that's not happening, you're either in the wrong studio, the wrong style, and you just have to keep looking around a little. But the practice, I mean, it uses our body as a tool for awakening, for being more present. And in doing that, right, the likelihood of maintaining tension in the body becomes much less. The likelihood of having your mind in a muck becomes much less, because you're cultivating awareness around those things. And it's very helpful for people who, cross-train, do other sports, and for people it's stressful careers. Yoga isn't supposed to be your life. It's supposed to make your life better, whatever your life is. Yeah.
So two questions for you, two last questions here. First of all, I'd love to talk to you about creating an exceptional experience for your clientele. So we've been talking a lot about your students that became trainers. So for real estate agents, they want to create, amazing experiences for their clients, buyers, sellers, renters, investors. And is there any advice that you could give to them how they can create that tribe and that thriving, experience amongst their customers and clients?
Yeah. I mean, you have to put them first. If you listen to my understanding of yoga, it's always being translated into how can I best articulate this so that the student can understand. So again, there's so many ways, simple things like, making a phone call, sending an extra email, a physical touch on the shoulder, whatever it is, that bringing an energy drink, right? All of these things create an exceptional experience. But the mindset has to be such that, we're living to be of service. And, if you're serving your client, not in a way where you're stamping yourself down, but in a way that the service is the most joyous way to be. And if you can let yourself experience that, put the client first. And for me, like I think putting my students first is translated into my team members too. I always thought about, how is this for the manager, or how is this for the work study, or how is this for the new teacher, and how can I make it better for them? And that's how I approached, and that's how Chris and I both approached our entire business. And it leads to nothing but a good experience and success.
Yeah. One of the things that we spoke about and that you've mentioned many times is training those around you to facilitate exponential growth. And what's cool about it is that you're not about growth for growth's sake. It seems like you're when you think about growing, it's to serve those that you're serving the people that are coming to your studio by giving them a place to work.
That's right, giving them a place to work. And students like to go to a yoga studio in their neighborhood. And that was the other service we realized we're doing. Less people are driving to their studios because now they can walk or ride their bike if we open a second location. So yeah.
Now, Kim, I know you have an amazing blog, and I get your emails all the time, and I really appreciate them. And you're always giving advice for books to read and a lot of really great stuff. If people want to go and connect with you and follow you, and if what you're saying resonates with them, which if they have a brain and a heart, it will, where do they go to connect with you, follow you, and follow your teachings?
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I almost forgot.
Well, everyone's going to Google you anyways. They're going to find you, but it'd be easier if you just tell them the website address.
I have a bi-weekly blog where I offer writings, long form writings on the connection between yoga art and literature. And so if you're interested in reading that, the blog is called It's a Beautiful Practice, but my website is my name, Kim Manfredi, www.kimmanfredi.com. And I would love for you to join me. Yeah.
Fantastic. And you're going to see on screen, everybody, some of the blog, and I highly urge you to read it and spend some quiet time because it goes pretty deep. And it's really fantastic, and it'll really help and benefit your life. And Kim, I appreciate you kind of just, putting this out there. Kim's never going to go out there and ask anybody for anything, but if you like her blog, go and donate a little bit. So, she doesn't get paid for this. It's just really good stuff. That's just my little plug for you. And Kim, I want to thank you so much for joining us on this show. This was really a pleasure. This was a breath of fresh air. A lot of times we're interviewing real estate agents and coaches and so on and so forth. And I think you really added a dimension of how people can see their business and how people can maybe get, step away a little bit from the ego if they want to have growth and try to build others in order to grow by themselves. And it's something that we teach really, really heavily in our company. And it's really, first of all, for me personally, it's really nice to see a company that worked in this way and blew up, because that just makes me so much more excited. I guess we're on the right path. But I really I thank you so much for sharing this with everyone that's tuning in. If anyone wants to connect with you, I know that you have a very big Instagram following. Where do people find you on Instagram?
Oh, Kim Manfredi, I think.
We can include a link. We'll put it in the comments.
Thank you.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Thank you for being such an awesome co-host over here.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Kim. This was wonderful. Thank you so much.
This is really wonderful. Thank you so much. And everybody, we'll see you soon. If you want to connect with Michael Meier, just go to Michael Meier NYC on Facebook, on Snapchat, michaelmeyernyc.com. And look forward to seeing you guys all soon. Don't forget, comment questions below. Bye.